Hey everyone, welcome back to Dynamics 365 Universe. In today's video, I'll walk you through an awesome and practical customization, how to add a translation button in the item group form in Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations. This feature allows users to add, edit, or delete language-specific translations for item group IDs and names without any backend coding needed later. So let's dive right into it. Here, you can see the final result on the screen. A simple, user-friendly interface where you can add any number of languages and enter the translation values quickly. This approach is designed to make your life easier. No need to rely on your technical team to update label files or handle complex processes. All you have to do is select the language you want, type in your translations, and save. That's it, your labels and text will show up wherever you need them in the system. You can also customize these translations anytime. Whether you want to correct a value, add a new language, or tweak something for better clarity, it's just a few clicks away. This flexibility empowers functional consultants, business users, or anyone managing content to maintain multilingual labels without digging into technical configurations. Now you might wonder, why even build this? Well, imagine your company operates in multiple countries, India, Germany, France, etc. Your reports, forms, and dashboards need to show data in each user's local language. While D365 supports multi-language labels, data fields like item names or customer names don't get translated automatically. That's where our custom translation framework comes in. Once implemented, users can open a translation form from the item group screen, add names in other languages like Hindi, French, German, etc. And these values can even be used in Power BI, SSRS reports, Excel, and more. And the best part? It's completely maintained via the UI. No developer required after setup. Alright, now let's jump into the setup part and build this translation feature from scratch. First, we'll start by creating a custom table to store all our language-specific translations. Let's name this table D365U InventItemGroup Translation, keeping it meaningful and aligned with naming standards. As you can see on the screen, we're adding the following fields. InventItemGroup. This field stores the rec ID of the item group from the standard InventItemGroup table. It acts as a unique reference. Language ID. This indicates the language of that particular translation, like NUS, DA, FR, and so on. Item Group ID. This stores the readable item group ID, basically a copy from the main table for display and filtering purposes. Name. This is where we'll store the translated name value. This is the core of our customization, the actual translated string that the user can manage. Now to ensure data integrity and avoid duplicates, we created a unique index called Format Local IDEX, which combines InventItemGroup and Language ID. This ensures that for each item group, we can only have one translation per language, exactly what we want. Moving forward, let's talk about relationships. We've added two foreign key relations here. One links the InventItemGroup field with the rec ID of the InventItemGroup table. and the second links the language ID with the language ID field from the standard language table. This not only ensures referential integrity but also makes it super easy for us to show dropdowns or perform lookups later in the form. So, this structure sets the foundation. Now users will be able to create or update translations without ever touching label files or writing a single line of code. Now let's quickly look at some important table properties we've set for our translation table. Title fields. We've set item group ID and language ID as the title fields. This helps display the record more clearly in lookups and grids, making it easier for users to identify what the record is about. Cache lookup equals found. We chose found to optimize performance. It means the system will cache the record when it's first accessed, reducing unnecessary database calls in forms or reports. Cluster index equals format local IDX. This is the unique index we created using InventItemGroup and language ID. Table type equals main. Since this table holds reusable master data, translations, we've set the table type to main. This tells the system it's a core table, just like customers or vendors. These small settings really help in making the table performant and user-friendly. Coming up next, let's build the form where users can manage translations easily. We also extended the standard InventItemGroup table to add foreign key relations to our custom translation table. Inside the Relations node, we created a relation using two fields. Item group ID and name from our D365U InventItemGroup translation table. This step is important because it allows these translated values to integrate seamlessly into forms, lookups, and reports. So wherever we show item groups, we can now easily join and fetch their language-specific names, without complex queries or logic. It also improves performance and enables better IntelliSense and filtering when building forms or reports. Now let's talk about the user interface part of this customization. To keep it simple and user-friendly, we added a custom button on the InventItemGroup form. We named it D365U Translate button and placed it right in the action pane so that users can easily access it while working with item groups. Computer mouse, but instead of hard-coding the button text or creating a new label, we followed a better practice. We reused an existing system label for the word translations. Here's how we did it. We searched for a label using the label editor, typed translations as the keyword, enabled the match exactly filter, and found a perfect system label already available. Checkmark, then we simply copied the label ID and pasted it into the button's text property. This way, we're keeping our customization lightweight, consistent with system labels, and avoiding unnecessary label file clutter. It also helps with localization, since system labels already come translated into multiple languages. So now, when users open the form, they'll see a clean Translations button, which opens the translation dialog we built. Coming up next, I'll walk you through how we wired up that button's click logic using chain of command and the SysTranslationHelper class. Now let's create the chain of command, CoC extension for our translate button on the InventItemGroup form. Here's the code we wrote inside a new extension class. Alright, now let's write the code to handle the translate button click using chain of command. We'll be extending the control logic, so let's begin. Here, we use the extension of attribute with form control str. This allows us to extend a specific button control on a form, in this case, the D365U Translate button on the InventItemGroup form. This tells the system exactly what we're extending. Next, we override the clicked method, since that's what we want to customize. Write public void clicked. Let's first write next clicked. This is important. It ensures the base logic of the button still runs. We always call next clicked, unless we want to completely replace the original behavior. Now let's get a reference to the control that triggered this method. Form control form button control equals any two object. This is form control. This casts this to a form control, so we can access form level methods in context from it. Now we'll get the form data source for InventItemGroup, since that's the table our form is based on. Form data source equals form button control. Form run, data source, table str, InventItemGroup. And using the data source, we get the current record using InventItemGroup. InventItemGroup equals form data source, cursor. This gives us the currently selected record on the form, and we'll use its rec ID for the translation dialog. Now let's bring in the translation dialog. SysTranslationHelper. This is a standard helper class provided by Microsoft. It opens a UI to edit translations for a record. We'll now initialize it with two tables. Translation helper equals new SysTranslationHelper. Tablinum, InventItemGroup, Tablinum, D365U InventItemGroup translation. So we're telling the system, translate this record from the main table, InventItemGroup, using the translations stored in our custom table. Now we launch the translation dialog, Translation Helper. Launch translation detail form, InventItemGroup, rec ID. We pass the current record's rec ID so the dialog opens specifically for that item group. And finally, after the dialog closes, we refresh the data on the form using element, data source, research. This ensures any updated translations show immediately if we're displaying them on the form. And that's it. We've successfully extended a form control using CoC, opened a translation dialog, and refreshed the form, all in a clean, upgrade-safe way. Coming up next, I'll show you this in action, how the dialog appears, how we add translations, and how it reflects instantly on the form. Alright, now that we've written all the code and completed the setup, let's build the solution and see the final result live in action. Go ahead and build your project. Once it compiles successfully, let's open the form and test our custom translation button. To access the form, follow this path in Dynamics 365, Inventory Management, then Setup, then Inventory, then Item Groups. Once the form opens, you'll see the list of all your existing item groups. Now look at the rightmost side of the action pane. You should see our new button labeled Translations, the one we added using chain of command. Let's select any item group from the list. For this demo, I'm picking vegetables. Now go ahead and click on the Translations button. You'll see that the translation dialog opens. This is coming from the standard SysTranslationHelper class we integrated. First, let's add a translation for English, United States. I'll enter vegetables as the value. Next, let's add a fun one. I'm randomly choosing Tibetan as the language, just to show you how flexible this is. Let's type the Tibetan translation, or you can paste it if you're using a tool like Google Translate. Once saved, both translations are now linked to this item group. And the best part? All of this is fully handled by users or functional consultants. No need to involve developers, no label file changes, and no deployments. You can add or update translations for any language as per your business needs, whether it's French, Spanish, Arabic, or something less common like Tibetan. It works out of the box. And that's it. You just saw how to create a translation setup from scratch, using a custom table, button, and the standard SysTranslationHelper class, all without touching label files. Right finger hope this helped you understand the process end to end. If you found this useful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Dynamics 365 Universe. Drop a comment if you'd like the full X++ customization. Thanks for watching. See you in the next tutorial.